Hello, everybody. Let's get started with our warm-up. Today, we're going to be doing a band-focused workout. So make sure you have your exercise bands with you, whether you have only one band, if you have other bands, if you have a variety of bands that you could use for different exercises, feel free to grab those. But in the meantime, we're just going to do our warm-up to get started. As always, follow along as best you can, but always make the modifications that make the most sense for you. We don't want to do anything that hurts. So let's aim for our warm-up to be somewhere around that RPE 10 or 11. This is not meant to be part of our workout so much as it is to prepare us for it. So if you'd like to be marching at a slower pace or at a faster one to get what you need for the warm-up, feel free to do that. All right, I'm going to bring my march out a little bit wider. And then back to the center. And wide again. And back to the middle. And then one more time wide. And back to the middle. All right, let's just punch it out a little bit in front, get the arms a little bit more involved here. And then you can come towards the side. And towards the other side. And then down towards the ground. Excellent. I always like to add a little bit of lateral movement when we're warming up to make sure our hips are all ready for the work we're going to do. So we have a couple of options, this being our warm-up. We could just do a nice little tap to the side to get those hips going here. If you are comfortable doing a bit more movement and need a little bit more to warm up, feel free to actually do a full movement. You can always use your chair for some balance support. I am going to be doing some seated exercises today, so if you do have a chair, that would be great. Many of them, maybe not all of them, but many of them can be modified into standing versus sitting. So I'll let you know where those modifications do exist. In some cases, though, they're specific sitting versus standing exercises. If you want to add that hamstring curl to get the back of the leg warmed up, ask that you do that now. I like to add a bit of a high row for this, but you can be holding on. You can continue with the arm sway. Some people like the bicep curl. As long as we're getting a variety of movements in, we're doing what we need to do for our warm-up. All right, let's come back to our march, and we're just going to tap it out in front. I'm going to start with a toe tap with a kind of a forward arm raise, or again, we could be holding on it if that makes us feel a bit better. We also could be doing lots of these movements while seated as well. That suits you better. And then I'm going to change this to a heel tap, so similar here, but just a little bit different muscles getting involved. Excellent. All right, I always do like to finish off with a little bit higher knees here, so it doesn't have to be fast per se. You could hold on as well. We just want to get a little, again, more of that hip involvement. I love doing some hip focused exercises, and I will be doing some today. So with the band seated, so we'll kind of start off pretty, not exactly that, but pretty close. So we'll get into that in a sec. All right, so we are hopefully warmed up. If not, you can pause the video and maybe do a little bit more. I'm going to start off with the chair, so get yourself seated. Hopefully your chair is a sturdy chair with no wheels, not going to run away with you. Grab hold of your band. We're going to do a couple of different things here in seated. There's quite a bit that we can do in the seated position. It's very effective with our band, so I want to focus on some of those today. So first thing I want to start off is with our lower body here. Going to make sure you can see everything. So let's start off. I'm going to start off band on my right foot here. So underneath my right foot is the band. My other foot is just kind of comfortably bent, sitting there flat on the ground. I would like to start off with the band a little bit closer to kind of the toe area. We still want it to be secure. We don't want it to kind of flap up at us, but I do want it somewhere near the toe. Heel down. The leg is not fully straight, but pretty close to straight. And pull pretty tight. So if you want to kind of anchor the band somewhere near your hips, as long as you're comfortable with holding that resistance, I just want you to push it like a gas pedal. So keep your heel on the ground, and you're just pushing it down, kind of like a gas pedal here. So for this is kind of a banded version of maybe like a heel raise that we do sometimes. So, I mean, you could do that while seated or also while standing when you do a heel raise, but this is sort of a way to utilize the band, that band resistance to work some of that part of the ankle. All right. So we're going to do a couple exercises on the right side, and then we're going to do the same exercises then on the left. So we'll do a couple more pumps here, the gas pedal. And then I want you to keep the band where it is in terms of on your foot. But what we're going to do next is we're going to bring these two pieces of band together, and we're going to anchor them on the outside of our other leg. So in this case, for me, it's my left leg. So it's on the outside of my knee, and you can sort of create that resistance and use that leg as an anchor to maintain that resistance, okay? So your foot is going to, again, heel is going to be on the ground, toe is up, and your leg is mostly straight. So not a locked knee, but a pretty straight leg. And all we want to do, and hopefully we can see this with the camera here, it's tough with the feet stuff, is I want to be pulling against the resistance with my ankle. So I'm turning my toe out. So see, it's not a big movement. Turning it out, pushing the outside of my foot against the resistance of the band, and then coming back to center. Back, and then controlling it back to center. You may almost feel like your foot wants to snap back, but part of the work is the controlling back, okay? All right, excellent. So these are two ankle-focused exercises that we can do in this situation. Now, in theory, we could do some other ankle exercises, but we would require a bit of time to actually anchor our bands in a little bit different ways. So I'm only going to be doing the ones that we can sit here in this kind of context and anchor them just with our own bodies for this session, okay? So a couple more like this, but I'm going to do the same two ankle exercises on the other side. Well done. Perfect. Okay, so let's switch the band. So now I'm moving the band to my left foot. So my right foot's just comfortably bent flat on the ground. Again, closer to the toe area, but still secured enough it's not going to flip up at you. We have our mostly straight leg. We're creating that pull resistance. And then the work we're doing is that push the gas pedal, okay? We're pushing the gas pedal for the ankle here, okay? So you almost get a little bit of an upper body work in terms of the isometric bicep curl to sort of hold the resistance. So we get a little 2 for 1, even though we're not really thinking about it. The heel does stay on the ground. We're just pushing the gas pedal. I guess maybe unless we're not really likely using the gas pedal here with our left leg, maybe if you drive a manual vehicle, you know, and we're pushing a clutch or something. But either way, we still need to make sure that both sides are strong. A couple more pumps here, and then we're going to do that other ankle exercise. All right, so that means we take the two pieces of band as we did before together, and we're anchoring on the outside of that like that kind of stability leg. Your leg is still pretty straight. You have a bit of resistance there, and we are just turning out against the resistance, but controlling back. So the work is both ways. Even though we only feel the resistance turning out, the work is still controlling it back. You see, the rest of my body isn't moving much, okay? There is an exercise actually that would actually require the whole leg to move that does have its own value. I don't think we're going to have time for that one today. We can't do everything. Maybe in another session, but we're just going to turn out. So working this outside part of our ankle. I think we'll kind of work our way up a little bit here, maybe with the bands. I think that's a good plan for today. Work up our body a little bit. Yeah, that goes. Excellent. So the next thing we might want to focus on now is actually specifically going to be just the quad. We will do hip specific stuff because I always like to do that. Now let's put that band back. I know we're backward. Back onto the right leg. If you've been doing these band exercises in any of our classes, you've seen this before. So we're going to get those two pieces of band together. So when we're back with the two pieces of band, we're pulling them in front of us. We don't want to pull behind. You'll get all tangled. So it's going to come in front, and we're going to pull it under our opposite side. And I like to sort of sit on it to anchor it. You don't have to. That may feel weird and uncomfortable, but we want to make sure we can anchor it to create that resistance for our leg here, okay? And then what we're doing here is we are straightening against that resistance and holding 1, 2, and then coming back down. So we want to keep our posture pretty good here so that way our core is engaged the whole time. Excellent. Well done. We're just going to go ahead and do a number of these. Try to make sure we get that contraction. We feel that hold for at least 2 seconds, and then come on down. You could choose to go even slower. There's value to that as well. And again, the more we kind of pull on that, create that resistance, the more resistance we will have for this. We will do something for our hamstrings later. I know we're kind of doing more the front part, but that one I'll be doing in standing. So we'll do that one a little bit. So we're not going to kind of do it in this little seated section. It doesn't quite fit as well. Let's do one more like this, and then we're going to do this exercise on the other side. That way we get a sort of mini break for our legs, because in all fairness, we're going to be doing a lot of the leg stuff right up here at the beginning, and then we're going to move on to some upper body for a while. Okay, so same thing. We're putting that band on the opposite foot now. So for me, that's my left. And I got the two pieces of band coming in front and across. I'm really pulling on it to get the resistance, because our lower bodies generally are pretty strong. Even if we think we may be weak and need to improve our strength, they still have a pretty good amount of strength to kind of support us. So get a good resistance. We're going to straighten and hold at least 1, 2. So your toe is sort of facing up here as opposed to pointed. If it was pointed, we might have some issues with keeping that band on. And I also find with that toe up, we're getting a better contraction of the quad, which is what we want to work on. So this, and hold. And then hold. And straighten and hold. Couple more. And believe it or not, we are still not done with our lower body. But hey, we're sitting and we're getting a lot done here. Look how much we can get done in this context, right? That's what I like people to see. Look at all the stuff we can do. We can do this while we're watching a show, you know. Who knows? We can really get these workouts in. All right, let's work on some hip movement specifically. So we have a couple ways to do this. I mean, I prefer just when I show this, just to kind of do a bit of a cross. So we're just gonna put the band like pretty almost right to that crack of the knee, but not right in it, because I would not be comfortable. Okay, so just before you get right into that crack part of where the knee's bent, just before that. So we want it to be pretty close, but not right in there and be uncomfortable. And then we're going to cross it over. So the challenge with this part is getting this resistance. So once we understand kind of how we can utilize the band, it's going to help a lot. So if you notice, as we pull this, we're creating more resistance around our hips. But obviously, we don't want to hold our arms like this, because our arms would be exhausted from that, even though that's not what we're looking for. So once we get that tension that we think we want, I want you to kind of almost anchor it on your own chair, like so you're holding, so that way that your arms aren't quite as tired. So you're anchoring whatever that resistance you've decided to start with, kind of right at the chair, and then your feet are flat on the ground, bent. You're sitting upright, engaging your core. We're going to do some single leg at this to start off with for our hips. So I'm starting with my right leg, and all I'm doing is stepping out. Now, if you do this and you're like, oh, this resistance is too much, you can loosen it, but then you're still going to anchor it again. Okay? And it's not even that you have to have a big range here. As long as we're kind of consistent with the movement, and we're making that movement very specific, then we are doing what we need to do. It doesn't have to be big, for example, because we're still activating that muscle. And that's one thing we'll see over time when we practice these exercises and we do them more often, is that our mobility, which is basically a combination of our strength and flexibility, all of them can get better by doing exercises like this, because we are strengthening with movement and therefore improving the mobility of our joints. So it doesn't have to be perfect right away. It's something that you can come back to and try again and again. And as long as we're working at it, we're going to see some improvements. All right. We're going to do one more here, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, okay? So hopefully keep the resistance the same or something similar. You may find that one side is weaker than the other, and that's not unusual, but it is something to keep an eye on and to note. Hopefully with the exercises and kind of using similar resistance and doing similar exercises, you can kind of bring them back so they're kind of even. We have kind of uneven muscular balances and strength. Sometimes we'll find you can get some injuries, and it leads us to maybe changing the way we walk and doing other things. So we don't want to create injuries because of muscular imbalance. So let's do a couple more like this. And then we're going to do the full clamshell, some seated marching, and then we should be done with some seated lower body. So it's coming up soon. We have a couple more to do. So for this part here, we're going to keep our feet together. They're still flat on the ground, but our starting position is similar. You may find that after you start this, you'll adjust your resistance one way or the other. And with the feet together flat on the ground, it's just an open. Okay, so this is our clam shell. So there's ways to do this lying down as well. I'm not going to do that for this particular session, but maybe there'll be others where we can address something like that. But if you see my feet, they do come, like the inner part of my feet do come off the ground a little bit as I do this, but I always have part of my feet that anchor to the ground. So it's not, again, about the move, the range of motion, it's about the strength with range of motion. So strength is number one. So we do want that resistance and controlled movement. And you may find over time that the actual range will also improve. But in this particular case, the main focus is going to be on strength. And then the mobility comes with that. So this is our clamshell. We're going to do one more exercise with this sort of band setup, and then we will give you a little break and do some upper body work, okay? All right, now if you found that the band has shifted a little bit, feel free to kind of rearrange it. It can be sort of uncomfortable. All right, so for this one here, same thing, get that resistance on there, anchor it, and all we're doing is marching here. So it doesn't have to be fast. It can be if you feel comfortable, but again, this being more of a strength-focused workout, that doesn't have to be fast. It can just be working with control against resistance. Excellent. If you're doing this for the first time and you're wearing shorts or something like that, maybe if you choose to do it again, if that's something you desire, you may choose not to wear shorts, simply because this isn't very comfortable on the skin. I probably should add a little disclaimer at the beginning. Maybe I'll do that when I post it. Don't wear shorts. Okay. Excellent. Well, you've done quite a bit of work here for our hips. Let's give ourselves a little bit of a break on that. Okay. Let's move on to some work for our upper body. So let's do 2 different exercises for our chest. Now, I'm going to be showing these exercises with the chair because I know a lot of us do use this. Now, I'm going to suggest, though, if you're at home and you have a little more time and you're a space that you're comfortable with, you're more than welcome to find a place on the ground or on your bed or something that you feel comfortable using. But it's not necessary. So we're going to show you the option that most of us will be using. And this will be on a sturdy chair with the band around our back, under our arms. Now, what becomes, and the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because when it comes to the chest, sometimes the angle in which we work is really, really important. So for us to get a little bit more of our chest involved instead of more of our shoulders, we kind of need a bit of an angle. So on our chair here, we can create a bit of an angle. Now, if you can see, I know the camera's not ideal. I don't want us sinking our back into it because that's just going to hurt our back. We do want to keep a straight back, strong forward. But if we create this angle, it's going to do a better job with our chest. And even better if you happen to be able to lie down, but not required. So from this position, our elbows are going to be sort of in this like 45-degree angle type position. We're holding quite close to our armpits. Back. And then from here, we're going to come together. And you can't really see, but I'm bringing my hands together a bit for that extra squeeze. And then we're going to come back. Okay? So we're going to punch out, bring hands together, squeeze in the chest, hold for a second, and control back. And then again, the angle just helps us to isolate the work a little bit more into our chest. If you have to do this while sitting straight up, that's totally fine. You're still going to get work in your chest from this. You're also going to get a little bit other shoulder work involved too. So it's not bad. It's just different. Okay. Squeeze. Squeeze. Always breathing. Okay. I keep looking towards the camera here, which I know I wouldn't actually recommend, twisting your head to the side, but I do find it strange when I'm on the camera here and I don't look towards you. So that, do as I say, not as I do. All right, one more like this. And then give yourself a rest for a sec. We are going to do another chest exercise. I'm supersetting these today for efficiency of how we're going to, do the workout and to better learn. So we are going to do our chest fly. So the difference, our position, our body position is going to be the same. The difference is our arms are going to be a little bit further out on the band, and they're going to be a bit wider. Okay, so this is going to be more like our starting position, but the rest of it is similar. So we're going to get back into that position bent. Okay, and this time instead of just our full open arms are coming together, and we're squeezing in the chest, and then coming back with a more open arm. Okay, feel free to tighten this if you feel that the resistance isn't enough, but we still squeeze by the chest and come back with a more open arm. Okay, and that's the difference here. You still want to be kind of around chest level though, so not too high as we do this. So we've already done pretty much most of our lower body work. We're done with our chest. We're coming along quite nicely here. And I've been doing most of it in the chair, and I might continue to do that. It seems to be we can do quite a bit in the chair, so I'm pretty happy with it. Let's do one more. Excellent. All right, so we're going to work on our arms now. We'll get to the back after. I have a few exercises in the back, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. So we did our chest. Let's do some arms. So arms, when we're doing our arms, we're usually focusing on our biceps and our triceps. So in this particular case, sitting or standing is an option. I'm going to continue to start with the sitting, just to show you that, we can do so much from this position, but you're more than welcome to stand. There are other advantages I'll talk to you about while we're doing this if we're standing. So let's just start with a bilateral. So that means both arms at the same time, hammer curl. So again, both feet on the ground, on top of the band, sitting up nice and tall, good posture. I'm not using my backrest here. I'm holding onto the band with the tails up top, which means I'm in a hammer grip and my palms are facing my body. Okay. And again, we have good posture. Always start that way. Get your elbows glued in by your rib cage, and then we're curling up and then down. So easy peasy. We're just going to go through this. Breathing. So the advantage, and I'll just show you as we're going along, advantage or disadvantage, I guess, depending on how you look at it. So if we're sitting here, we have this certain level of resistance that we're creating. Once you stand, if you notice that there's an extra pull, you can even just try it right now if you're following along in the chair. If you stand for a sec, you'll notice the extra pull we get from the band. So that could be a good thing. So keep in mind that we are looking for challenging work when we're doing our strength training. So if you did find it a little too easy when you're sitting, this is a great option. But if you also were already challenged while sitting, then you're more than welcome to continue that way. I'm going to alternate here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to finish up with this hammer curl. Then we're going to do some tricep work, and then we're going to come back and do another kind of version for our biceps. Okay, so for our triceps, now this one here, really no difference between sitting or standing in terms of how we do it. So we're going to drape the band across our hand. So it's somewhere in the middle. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle. And the big thing here is that we come across our body, okay? So my right hand would be touching my left shoulder. So this is what's key here. And then we're grabbing the band on the same side it's draped on here. So now that my left hand's going to be grabbing hold. And what I recommend for this one here is that we aim to grab higher up on the band. So that could mean you're only using one piece, and that's okay. I'm going to show you from the side. I'm going to glue my elbow in by my side here, and I'm going to find that straighten. Okay? So if we do this, and it's fine, it's a little bit easier, you're more than welcome to grab that second piece. So you can grab both pieces, but I want to make sure that that doesn't mean you start grabbing really low, because you'll get a lot less work down here. You're going to get a lot more work if you go from higher up. Okay? So whether that's one or two pieces. And then when you get to that straighten, hold it for a sec to make sure you feel that contraction in the tricep. Triceps can be a bit awkward to isolate. So you want to keep the elbow close to your body to help with that. And you really do kind of want to find that full straighten. So unless there's a reason why you cannot fully straighten your elbow, like an injury or something else, we want to make sure we're getting the full straighten for the tricep extension, okay? That would be your goal if that's something that your joints allow you to do, okay? If you wanted to make this more difficult, you're more than welcome to sort of come halfway up. So you're constantly keeping the tension on the tricep. Okay, so that's an option. You're also going to end up working your bicep a bit more, but hey, why not? I can manage it. But there we go. See? That will be your extra challenge for the tricep. Okay. All right, let's switch sides. So we're half side. We're going to move this over to the other side. So draped. So now with this band in my left hand, it's going to come across to my right side, and my right arm is going to be the working arm. So try with the same as last time, whether it was one piece or two, but grabbing really high so your two hands are already close together to start, gluing at the side, and then looking for your straighten. Okay? So you feel the work in the back of the upper arm. And you can make your adjustments, whether that's two pieces of band or one. Nice and controlled. And then if you notice that you're feeling that contraction, it's feeling good, but you feel like you could do more, you can come halfway up and then down, halfway. And as you can see, if I'm standing, nothing really changes other than the standing aspect, right? So you're welcome to do it, but it doesn't change this part of the exercise. So there. So as I said, I wanted to do another bicep exercise. I'm not gonna, this is the only tricep one I'm gonna do today, but we added the half hold, so I know we made it challenging enough. We'll do one more kind of bicep option, and then we'll move on, and the arms will be done as well, and maybe we'll do some shoulders and some back. Okay, so for our biceps this time around, we're going back into the position. So we have our 2 feet down on the band, and you can hold it if your wrists are pretty strong. If you're comfortable and strong with your wrists, you don't find that they bend when we do bend awkwardly when you're doing the exercise, you can use this grip. If you struggle with that, then I would go back to that hammer grip. I find it a little bit easier to control from the wrists, so it's up to you. I'm going to do the more standard bicep curl position for this one. I'm going to roll my shoulders back. I'm grabbing a little lower here for this because, again, my arms are pretty strong, I think. Keep my elbows glued in. And for this time around, we're going to do a cross. Actually, you know what? Thinking on the fly here, we're going to do the standing only because our knees get a little bit in the way with this one. We're going to do a cross body curl. So we're alternating here, okay? Cross body. Yeah, you can do it while you're sitting. It just takes a little bit of maneuvering because your own knees sort of get in the way from the crossing part. So I would probably recommend that you stand for this. So just like previously, our elbows are still in close. The difference now is it does shift a little bit to the front of me, but whether you can see it or not, it's still touching in my rib cage here. It's just shifting a little bit to the front part, but we still want to keep our elbows in and connected. The difference is because we're coming across, we have to let it come to the front a little bit. But again, working a little bit different angles on the biceps when we do this. So we're going to do a couple more on each side, and then I'm going to do some shoulder work, which we will do sitting for a couple of reasons. Or at least I will demonstrate it that way, and I'll give you an option to do it standing if you'd like. Okay, so for the shoulders, I often like to display this sitting only because I know that a lot of us struggle with some shoulder-related issues. So this will, as we said before, this gives a little bit less resistance. I'm going to start with 2 feet on. If you're trying this with me and you find it still a little tough, you could always take 1 foot off. It does give you a little bit more leeway on band. And I still say in many cases, grab near the edge of the band to give yourself some freedom of movement. Let's again get into our good posture. We're going to do front raise and then side raise, okay? Alternating. So try a couple here, see how it goes, and then we can make your adjustments. So for example, we're doing this and you're like, oh, I can't quite do it. Feel free to take that 1 foot off to give yourself a little bit more band to work with. If it's just painful from an injury or other types of limitations, you're always welcome to do one arm at a time and maybe not focus so much on the one that's not working as much. You could reduce how far you're bringing your bands up, that sort of thing. Now, on the other hand, if you're doing this and you're thinking, I could do more, like this isn't that hard for me, you can try it standing, and you'll notice right away once you stand, and you could try this as an experiment, but it's pretty tough, how much more difficult it is just by adding the standing piece. So that's an option for a modification as well. Okay, so pick which way you want to go. We're almost done anyway because I've been talking to it. So regardless of which method you're trying, we're almost done. So let's do, so after this, we're going to do one more front, one more side. Excellent. And side. Perfect. Our main focus really, I mean, we basically have our back and our core left. So we're doing great here, I think. Okay. So this here's a transition-y kind of exercise. So what I mean by that is we're going to be working a little bit of a different part of our shoulders as well as a little bit of our back. So I'm going to do this to transition into some of our back work because it's a little bit of both. So again, sitting nice and tall. Our band is now X. It's a cross. So basically, you're just grabbing on the opposite side. There's no tying, nothing like that. It's just crossed, okay? Still, posture is always good. Our goal here with this one here, if you can see, and I'm going to hold for a second, is that my wrists, hands, elbows are kind of in line and no hole higher than shoulder height. Anything I'm reaching towards around my chest area, armpit area, and the back dip. All right. And again, as always, if you find this is easy, standing would be probably the best next progression here. Make sure you maintain your posture though. But standing ends up being a great option to add that extra bit of resistance. Okay, but sitting is fine too. Oh, we're doing great. Excellent. A couple more. And so our final focuses will be a couple of back exercises and core, and that's it. We'll be done. You're doing great. Okay, so as I mentioned before about transition exercise, this is another one. I don't want to say it's fully transition. It's a little bit more of a back exercise, but it actually has a component of the back of our shoulders. And our shoulders being in 3 sections, sometimes it's hard to get everything involved, especially considering how challenging it is to do. So we're going to do an exercise that sort of addresses a little bit of the back of the shoulders too. So I'm going to show you sitting and standing because, to be honest, I prefer standing for these versions, but you can do it sitting. So I'm going to change my chair a little bit so you can see the angles, because this is all about angles. And this is the only reason why I suggested this way. It's because angles become more important to make sure we are working our back, okay? So if we're choosing to sit, because I've been sitting most of the way, that's totally fine. Let's start with that. And our feet, one on each. What becomes important is, again, our angles. So we need to, if we're doing this and sitting up straight, 100% we're just going to be doing more shoulder work, okay? So just be prepared for that. What we need to do is we need to have a tip at the hip. So if you're sitting, it looks like this, kind of. If you're standing, it looks kind of like this. So either one is okay, but try to pick what makes sense for you to make sure we have that angle, because the angle makes a difference. And what we're going to do for this one, and again, I'll show you in a different angle later if we need to, is we're going to grab pretty low, and similar to another row, which we'll do after, we're actually bringing your elbows out to the side, okay? So it looks kind of like this. So we are still doing a row, so we are coming up and squeezing our shoulder blades. Elbows are coming kind of up and back, but a little bit to the angle, right? This way. The angle is what's confusing for this one. So if you were to try to do this right now, sitting up, you'll notice that you're really doing a lot more shoulders again. If you come here, you're going to get your back as well as potentially the back of the shoulder. So it's not that the other one is wrong per se, it's just not what we're trying to focus on. So let's do a few like this, and then we'll go back to the standard row that you're slightly more familiar with and see if you can feel the difference with it. Squeeze, squeeze, and squeeze. That's what we're going to do a bunch for the back. I'll let that be there. Now, for the row, if we're sitting, you can, again, as I said before, you can stay sitting up straight for this one, and you're still going to get a fair bit of work on the back. But I almost want you to try both ways so you can feel how it slightly changes if we have a bit of an angle. All right. So for this one here, this is what we do often. We do this one all the time. Is we're bringing that hand to brush back past your hip bones, and your elbows are coming kind of up and back, almost like they're going to hit the back of the chair, depending on how close you are to it. Now, if you sit up, you are actually going to still get work in the back. So that is okay if you feel like that's tough for you to bend forward, because you can still squeeze in by the shoulder blades, okay? So that's an option. And again, if you're standing, you could do this with both feet, but some people will actually find if you did it with one foot in front, it's almost easier to get that bend, and you can still squeeze the shoulder blades and get that row. So there's lots of options here. Just find what's challenging for you. You could be doing this one arm at a time. I'm not going to do that today because I'm doing a whole bunch of them together. It's a lot of repetitions. Because I do have one more version to do before we get to our core. So I know. So the next exercise, so since I'm standing, I'm going to start with that, but then I'll show you sitting. It's similar. We have that tip at the hip, same position. Similar to when we did the chest fly, we have our arms out, okay? This one's going to be a little tougher. If you really, I'm just like, I can't manage that because it's just too tough, you can go back to the one with the elbows. It's a similar exercise. It's just with the straight arm. It's a little bit more challenging. So it's not that different. So you can choose to go back to the elbow out, or you could try the full arm. So when you're sitting, it's the same idea. You just need that tip at the hip for this one. Otherwise, we're back to our shoulders. So you're coming out. Okay, so to get back, you need to be bent a little bit. I find I'm slightly more successful with that bend when I'm doing it standing, but you can play around with it and see what works for you. So let's do about 2 more here, and then we're going to get into some core work. Good. Okay. Because the band is already where it is, I'm actually going to start with an exercise with the band exactly where it is. So for this one here, also fairly, common, we do this one in our classes. Feet on the band, flat on the ground. Space here, okay? This is actually very important for this exercise. If you are uncomfortable with that, that's okay. Just understand it's not really going to work as far as the exercise is concerned. Now, I appreciate that we have to modify, and if this doesn't work, then maybe we'll skip this exercise. But for this particular one to work, you need space, okay? So finding a spot near the edge where you're secure and your feet are glued on, you're holding onto the band, staying tall, okay? So what we're doing here is we're coming back towards the back of the chair. You might touch it, but we're not resting there, okay? And we come right back up. So a couple things are happening here. When we go back against this band, we're working sort of our back extension exercise. And then when we come up, we're essentially doing a modified sit-up. But if we don't have that space or angle, we really aren't accomplishing either of those things. So just to understand that that part of the setup is necessary for this particular exercise. Now you can do this without the band, then it's more of the sit-up. You don't get as much of the back extension piece, and that's fine too. If you start to notice your feet trying to come off the ground, really try to anchor them down, but try to keep them on the ground. So if you need to sort of come up into your sit-up sooner, then that's okay. Excellent. Alrighty. Do 2 more, and that's it. I mean, 2 more exercises. I mean, 1 more of this, 2 more exercises. All right. The next one we're going to do, I'll come back to my normal position here to see. You can keep your band the way it is. I just want to make sure it can be seen. Band is back there in the same position we've done for a lot of today's session. And our holding is also similar. So we're going to do our pull-up press. Again, this one is a lot more achievable or a lot more approachable sitting because of the strain on the shoulders. So this is a core exercise, but the shoulders are often the limitation. So back to sitting up tall, hold into both pieces of band. The starting option, I would say, is somewhere around your belly button, but then we can monitor from there. And what we're going to do is we're bringing that band out away from our body and then back in. Okay, so it's as simple as that to start. So I want you to start there to figure out what height makes sense for you. If that's not too bad for you, you can grab lower and actually raise as far as shoulder height with this. But just understand that this is the focus here really is core. You should feel your core tighten as we bring the band away from us. But we don't want our shoulders to be the limitation. So if you find that they are, lower is okay, or even just using 1 piece of band to get that, you'll still feel that work from your core. Now, if you're doing that for a while and you're like, okay, I want to change it up a little bit as you come out, you can always do a circle one way. And then when you go out, you can do a circle the other way. My leg's kind of getting in the way with this one. If you're standing, you find yet again, you can do that without the legs getting in the way. But shoulders are going to tire first, okay? So you may have to, you can start one way, maybe do the circles in standing, and then once your shoulders are too tired, you can sit back down to finish the work so that the knees are out of the way. So that's something to think about. Let's do 1 more circle one way, circle the other way. Let's say, okay, my shoulders are tired. We can come back to the straighten. Just make sure with exercises like that, you're breathing. You're not holding your breath. All right, we're gonna do 1 more exercise. It's very simple, and then we'll be done. Okay, so for this next one, again, sitting or standing doesn't really make a difference, but I want you to take your band, and actually, let's do it in let's fold it in half, and then in half again, so that it's like this. Now, this is not very technical, this part, okay? This is just, I want to create a little bit of pull resistance. Again, I want to make sure, so if we're sitting up nice and tall, feet flat. If we're standing, our feet are pretty close together, really strong, comfortable position. So either way will work. What I want you to start off with is make sure that we have your 2 hands are you're pulling a little bit of tension on the band. It doesn't have to be a lot because that's not the work, but a little bit of tension on the band. And then we're just bringing it side to side, but with the tension. The tension actually makes a difference. It's pulling the band out, even though it's not moving really. The action of pulling it out while moving side to side, yes, your biceps are going to feel this, but you're also going to engage more in the core, okay? So you can do this standing as well. So if you notice my body's not moving, the movement is above the waist, okay? My hip bones remain facing forward. Yes, the pull on this band is going to tire your arms. So if you find that happens, you can release the tension and then continue to go side to side. You're still going to get some work in there, but you'll notice pretty quickly that the actual core engagement is slightly less without the tension. So if you find you take a break for your arms and then you actually get back, get that tension on again, you'll notice you can do it almost like a little interval tension for a few rotations. Relax so your arms get a break, and then add the tension on again, so sitting or standing. Excellent. We are all done for today. So that's a full body, actually mostly seated band workout. So hopefully we'll have some more a band and other resistance training workouts for you available for you on the website. So we will see you again on another workout.